I'm going to be showing you a full breakdown of the trade that will be taken if price open tomorrow being Monday. And I'm going to be using the ultimate supply and demand strategy, which is built on structure, liquidity, and point of interest to show you this breakdown. But before we go into that, if you're seeing me for the very first time, my name is Divine and I'm a forex trader. What I basically do on this channel is document how I trade and as well show you the mindset behind my strategy. If you want to be seeing content like this, smash the subscribe button, like this video, and like this video. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm going to be analyzing gold in this particular video. And remember, I said it is built on structure, liquidity, and point of interest. And for me to be able to apply all of these structures, liquidity, and point of interest, I simply have to go to the higher time frame and understand the overall direction of the market. That means I'm simply going to be using what price is doing on the higher time frame to make decisions on the lower time frame. And for us, the higher time frame is simply daily time frame. I'm going to go to daily time frame right now and be able to identify what price is doing on daily time frame. And for me to be able to identify what price is doing on the daily time frame, I want to simply zoom in properly and see the bigger picture. Now, looking at the bigger picture with my eyes, I can clearly see that price is in an uptrend. I can see with my eye that price is basically in an uptrend. But you don't have to use your eye to make that decision. You want to simply use the trend line to confirm if price is truly going to the upside. And in this case here, I want to simply identify my support and my resistance. In this case here, this point is simply my point of support, right? This is my support, and for every support, there is always a resistance. This is my resistance. Now, having identified the support and resistance, I want to simply interpret the support and interpret the resistance to know if price actually in an uptrend. Now, in this case here, price is actually in an uptrend because price is still respecting the support as much as price is respecting the resistance. Why? Because once price gets to the resistance, it comes to the support. Once price gets to support, it goes to resistance. Same thing up until this point here that price have gotten to the support and most likely price is heading to the what? Resistance. That means in this case here, we're going to be looking for a bullish entry to continue to go to the what? Resistance level because at every point price gets to support level, price is going to the resistance level. And for us to identify a good point, we're going to follow price or how to jump price. We want to simply understand where the key levels are and be able to identify structure. Remember, everything is built on structure, liquidity, and point of interest. In this case here, we are simply going to identify the key level here, which is acting as a resistance key level. This point acting as a resistance key level, and here is acting as a support key level. Now, the essence of these key levels is simply for us to use to identify structure because we're only going to focus on the structure that price has created from these key levels for us to make any decisions. And for us to understand this structure, we are simply going to go to the 4 hours time frame and understand the structure that price has printed from these key levels. Now, on the 4 hours time frame, for us to identify the structure, we can clearly see that price is also going to the upside on the 4 hours time frame because since price got to this key level here, price has moved to this point, giving us sign that price is basically in an uptrend. But if you look closely here, since price got to this key level, what did price do? Price simply induced an equal high here, giving us a buy side liquidity, and price also induced an equal low here, giving us a sell side liquidity. Now, having understood this point of liquidity, you can clearly see that price took out this buy side liquidity, sorry, and price left to what? Buy side liquidity. Let me recap again here. Price simply took out sell side liquidity and price left out buy side liquidity. That means there's every tendency that price is simply going to come for this particular liquidity that's at this point here. Now, since price took out this liquidity, what did price do? Price induced a low here and price also induced a high here. Now, our interest now is to understand the structure that price created since price induced this low and since price induced this high. And if you look closely, you will see that price simply gave us this swing low, swing high, swing low, swing high, swing low, swing high, swing low, and this is the current high. That means all of this total that is here, this place is simply the current high, and here is simply the current low. We're going to identify the current low and work with only the current low, right? Here is the current low. That means our interest now is simply on this current low and on this current high, where we want to simply identify our supply or demand zone. In this case, price is an uptrend. That means we're going to be identifying a what? A demand zone on the 1 hour time frame. Now, notice how we're able to use every time frame for a particular purpose. That means when we went to the daily time frame, we had a purpose. When we went to the 4 hours time frame, we had a purpose. Now we are basically on the 1 hour time frame, and we also have a purpose of identifying supply or demand zone. And now for us to identify supply or demand zone, we are simply going to focus on this last low and on this last high. That means our interest for identifying supply or demand zone is simply on this low and on this high. And now if you watch closely, you will see that the first demand zone that price created here is simply at this point here. This is the first demand zone, and here is also the next demand zone that price created. Now our interest now is simply go to the 15 minutes time frame and refine these zones to become a point of interest. That means we want to simply refine these particular demand zones to become a point of interest, so we can identify at what point we are going to follow price to the upside, because price is basically in an uptrend. Now on the 15 minutes time frame, for us to refine this particular supply or demand zone, we want to simply understand or look at what price did at that particular demand zone. How the price behave at this demand zone. Now, if you look closely here, you'll see that this place is a demand zone because it's a flip zone where price simply was supposed to sell from this place, but instead price failed and price came back to this point for a buy. That means this place was where this demand zone was triggered, and when this demand zone was triggered, a new one was created at this point here. Now, because this one has been triggered, let's refine this one and basically see how price can come back to this particular demand zone, and then we'll look for a buy opportunity. Now, if I were to define this demand zone, we can simply represent this point here to be our point of interest. That means here is simply going to be our point of interest, and most likely we're going to wait for price simply coming back into this zone, and then we look for a buy opportunity. Now, before we buy from this zone, we want to also confirm if there's liquidity to hold this zone, because once we identify a supply or demand zone, in this case a demand zone, there has to be a liquidity that will enable this particular zone to hold. And if there's absence of liquidity, that means to not hold. Now, if you look closely here, the point where we can identify to be our liquidity point is simply at this point here, right? At this point here, simply going to be our liquidity point, right? And what I want to basically do is simply wait for prices to open tomorrow, will be Monday. And if price do any of this thing I'm going to say, then we're going to look for opportunity for a what? A buy, for a buy in this case, right? Remember, price induced liquidity here, which is referred to as a buy side a sell side liquidity, sorry. This place simply is sell side liquidity. And again, price also induced liquidity at this point here, which is also a buy side liquidity. Buy side liquidity. Now, for us to know if we're going to buy or if we're going to sell, we want to see price do any of these two things I'm going to explain in this video. If price does this one, then we're going to look for a buy. If price does the other, then we'll look for a sell. In this case here, we have identified a point of interest, meaning that we want to simply see price come into this zone, and then we look for a buy opportunity, right? Now, for us to buy, if price open tomorrow and price start coming to the downside, that means we're most likely going to buy from this particular level, and we're going to put our entry from this particular point. Our stop loss is going to be below this particular point here, and take profit. TP1 is going to be here, and most likely to the upside for full TP, right? This is going to be our buy setup. That if price open tomorrow be Monday and start going to the downside, we're going to look for a buy opportunity because there's a demand zone here and there's liquidity that will trigger this demand zone for this demand zone to hold. Now, but if price open tomorrow and price are going to the upside, then we're going to look for a sell, right? If price open tomorrow and price start buying to the upside without getting to this point, then we're going to look for a sell. And the sell is going to basically be that one price simply buy to the upside, get to this point here, our stop loss above this point here, and our TP1 is going to be here, and then our full TP will be at this point here. That is, if price open tomorrow and start buying to the upside. That means I'm giving you two scenarios in this particular setup here. That if price open tomorrow and start buying to the upside, we're going to look for a sell opportunity. But if price open tomorrow and start selling to the downside, we are going to look for a buy opportunity. But because the price is an uptrend and big on the buy side, that means price is likely going to buy because price is going to respect the higher time frame direction instead of a reverse case. So the whole point is this, that we're only going to react to the market if price open. We're not predicting the market. We're only going to react and allow price to do one or two things, and then we'll know if you're going to buy or if we're going to sell. But in this case, I'm most likely confident that price is simply going to sell to the downside, and then we'll look for a buy opportunity from here. I'll stop loss here. Most likely I'll take profit one, going to be here, 1:2, and most likely a 1:3 to the upside. This. That will be all for this video. I will see you in the next video. Peace.